You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Welcome to the Capitalist Corner, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, joined today by the amazing Persephone. There's a lot going on today, folks. So we've got, of course, this show here. Then at 2:30, we'll be doing Everyday Ethics on this channel. Then at 3:15 p.m., we'll be doing Crime, Corrections, and Culture on this channel. And then at 4:05 p.m., we will be streaming a debate from this channel, from the Rational Egoist, also on Twitch. It's going to be a good debate between two smart young guys, Liam Staten and Liquid Zulu, on whether objectivism is open or closed. So we've got a lot going on. But before we get into any more, Persephone, make whatever announcements, send them wherever you got to send them.
Please don't forget to go follow us on Twitch at the end of this week. So tomorrow we'll be picking one subscriber on Twitch to receive a free piece of merch or a free copy of Down the Rabbit Hole, whichever they want. Please also don't forget to go and find all of the shows on Spotify and listen and leave a rating. We're a couple of episodes behind, before anybody asks.
By the way, today is the 100th episode of Everyday Ethics.
Everyday Ethics.
Yes. Also, we allow and appreciate and love super chats and super stickers on all our shows. Do you have anything else to tell them? We got a lot to get into. Go ahead.
I do. So for everybody who is not on Twitter, we've also started posting the recommended reading for the day to the YouTube channel. So if you go to the posts tab, you can find a link with all of the recommended reading, and you'll also see that we've added the shop to the YouTube channel. So go and check out the merch, because there's some really fun merch. And that's all I have to say. Oh, yeah, that's all I have to say. Never mind.
Okay, so we're going to start with a little bit of Iran. There's an article in Reason magazine today. It says that Trump's bluff to Iran didn't work. After trying to open the Strait of Hormuz by force, the U.S. is ready to accept an Iranian proposal it previously rejected. U.S. official told Axios early on Wednesday morning that they are ready to accept a framework for new peace talks. Iran would gradually reopen the strait while the U.S. lifts its blockade. Both sides would have 30 days to negotiate a detailed agreement which would restrict Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting U.S. economic sanctions, disarming Iranian missile forces, which the Trump administration had named as a major war goal. That doesn't seem to be on the table at all. So there's so much I want to talk about. It's kind of difficult to say what should come first. So first I want to go over this. So I went through Claude, ChatGPT, and Grok, and I asked for what were the stated war objectives coming in and how many have been met. Interestingly, the three ultimately agreed, but Grok, and you'll see this because Persephone is going to post it if you want. Grok initially went through all these things that the administration had achieved, but I noticed as I'm reading this that it says per the White House, per the White House, per the White House, and then I told Grok, okay, I'm not asking you what the White House says. I'm asking what the facts are. And then everything came in line with the other two AIs. So, 1, destroy Iran's ballistic missile arsenal and production capability. That was one goal. Partial, significant damage, not destroyed. Annihilate the Navy, yes, that has been achieved. Sever Iran's support for terrorist proxies, no. Prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, no. The stockpile is actually now more dangerous than before the war. Forestall Iranian retaliation after an expected Israeli attack. That didn't work because Iran retaliated massively. Stop an imminent Iranian threat disputed because the Senate Intel Committee said there's no evidence that Iran was an imminent threat. Seize Iran's oil resources? No. Regime change? No. Iran's unconditional surrender? No. Reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before the conflict? No. End Iran's use of armed proxies across the Middle East? No. Dismantle nuclear facilities at Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow? No. Iran hands over HEU stockpile to the International Atomic Energy Agency? No. Permanently prohibit Iranian nuclear weapons development? No. Neuter the regime? No. One clear yes, one partial, 13 no. So the objectives haven't been met. Trump keeps saying that the Iranians are eager for a deal. They want a deal. You could have fooled me. Also, it turns out that Saudi Arabia, I guess, as a result of Project Open Up the Strait, where the Project Freedom, I think it was called, where the Trump administration, was going to send the military to guide ships through. Evidently, Saudi Arabia said, not so fast. If you do that, you're not using our bases to do it. So perhaps that's why that came to an end. So they violated the Constitution. They haven't achieved their goals. They've announced multiple times that the war has been won. Okay. Also, there was the promise. My nose itches so bad right on the tip of my nose. It's really aggravating me. They, at the beginning, they told the Iranian people help was on the way. Maybe not. So one of the conditions that they're talking about is that Iran is going to agree to not have nuclear weapons. The problem here is that Iran has agreed not to develop nuclear weapons since 2003. Now, we may not believe them. I mean, I don't believe what they say. They're liars. But nevertheless, they've agreed since 2003 not to develop nuclear weapons. So to say that if they agree now, that's some kind of a victory is just bullshit. Also, despite, however people dismiss this, U.S. intelligence analyses that have occurred since 2007 up until now have all said that Iran is not trying to produce a nuclear weapon. They've not made the decision to pursue a nuclear weapon. What they have said is that they did reach breakout capacity, where if they chose, they could have, because they were at 60%. From what I can see, there were two intelligence organizations throughout the world that said, no, they are going. One of them was Austria and the other was Israel. But when the experts looked at the actual Israeli intelligence, they said, no, Iran's not pursuing a nuclear weapon. That, of course, does not mean that Iran is not a bad country with a bad regime. It also doesn't mean that they're not a threat, because they do sponsor terrorists. They do call death to America. And, all that is true. They have attacked Americans overseas. They've gone after American interests. All that's true as well. But if the reason you're going to war is because of the nuclear stuff, according to all the intelligence, they weren't pursuing it. So a lot of people are saying that this new agreement is like the JCPOA, which was, of course, entered into under Obama. Trump got us out. From what I can see, in regard to nuclear, it's very similar, but the New Deal also contains other things that the JCPOA didn't include, like funding proxy networks, things of that nature. So I asked, all these, what are they called, AIs, about the JCPOA. Now, you may not like it. You may not think it was a good deal. I'm not here to argue about that. It still left wiggle room down the road for Iran to pursue nukes. That's true. But, okay, so the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or Iran nuclear deal, 2015, was an agreement where Iran agreed to restrict its nuclear program, reducing enriched uranium stockpile by 98% and limiting centrifuge use in exchange for relief from UN, EU, and U.S. nuclear-related economic sanctions under heavy IAE inspection. The nuclear constraints that they were agreed to was to limit enrichment levels to 3.67%, reduce centrifuges, and restructure the Iraq reactor to prevent weapons-grade plutonium production. Monitoring and inspections. The IAEA was granted access to monitor fuel cycle activities, verifying compliance to rigorous inspections. There was sanctions relief, and a few other things that aren't really, relevant. So the question is, were they in compliance? And the answer, I don't think that they're actually going to say that they got it from you, though, Persephone. My guess is they're going to do it and not give credit. That's my guess. But anyways, according to all sources, Iran was in compliance. Even the Trump administration said they were in compliance technically, but in spirit, whatever the fuck that means, they were violating it. So they were in compliance. They had their uranium enriched under 4%. Then Trump gets out of the deal. And then they ultimately enriched to 60%, which puts them in a rapid breakout position where they could have made a decision to go nuclear. Still didn't have the ICBMs to reach us, but within 10 years, technically, they could have. So Trump gets us out of this agreement, leads to Iran increasing their uranium enrichment, then declares that he bombed them last year and said that their nuclear capability was obliterated. But then in February of this year, we needed to go to war to stop their nuclear program, which he already claimed was obliterated. Their nuclear program their uranium that was enriched to 60% because Trump backed out of the JCPOA. Despite the fact that all intelligence says they weren't pursuing a weapon, they were an imminent threat, according to the Trump administration. As recent as a couple days ago, he told a bunch of children that they were 2 weeks away from annihilating us, essentially. So all that's true. Now, please, I beg of you, audience, fact check me. Please fact check me. If you've been told differently that no, they were on the cusp of a nuclear weapon, they were pursuing it, they were an imminent threat, they have ICBMs, whatever, just fact check me. Just look it up. It's not hard to find, I promise. So you can look into it. So because they got to 60% uranium enrichment, because Trump backed out of the JCPOA, or the JPCOA, now I'm confused, doesn't matter. We had to go to war, and we had to do so by violating the Constitution. And now he's in violation of the War Powers Resolution. Also, out of the 15 or so objectives they stated, they could reach one. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? I say no. Okay, Persephone, I've gone on long enough. Now you can go.
So, the last time I was here, I said none of this has meant anything. And then in the very first article you sent, the Reason article, they say, at this point, the 30-day proposal for peace talks is not a bad deal for the United States. It would stop the immediate threat to Americans' well-being and create a path to resolving long-term risk. But the latter problem was something that Iran was already willing to negotiate away before the war, and the former problem didn't exist at all. Thousands of lives and millions of livelihoods were destroyed to get back to square one. And this is what I said, like, a couple of days ago. There's been no point to any of this. It's all just been posturing, stupid, yeah, dumb.
Well, I mean, look, it is true that we have degraded their ballistic missiles. We have
True.
defeated their navy. That I mean, there are some accomplishments to point to. We've also alienated further a lot of our allies. We've spent a whole lot of money. We also have gas prices, as we're going to get to later, up to national average. I think is $4.54 in America. And the regime is still intact. The Iranians don't have freedom. And we've
They,
further degraded our constitutional structure and the rule of law.
and also, are they not saying that damage to United States military bases in other areas is actually worse than what is being reported?
I've heard that as well. I don't know enough to comment on it. It might very well be true, but I don't like to talk about things generally unless I'm certain. But yeah, that's been reported.
I am going to Google that, and see if I can fact check that because I've heard that. So sure, there have been some benefits, I guess. I mean, their navy hasn't been entirely destroyed. It's been the same as like their weapons capacity. It's been heavily degraded, like 90%, but not completely annihilated.
All right, I have a question because Enric says the USA is capitulating to the Islamic Republic. Okay, Enric, but I got a question for you. And if my assumption is wrong, then I apologize. I see a lot of posts, so I might be confusing you. But Enric supported the war, I believe, from the get-go. Has your mind changed, Enric? And does any of this surprise you? That's what I would like to know. Does any of what's occurred surprise you, and have you changed your mind on the war and whether it was worth it to violate the Constitution for it? That's my question to Enric. Kira Felix says it makes complete sense since the war is unpopular. Trump moves with the wind of the approval polls. Of course. Trump was under the impression. Now, if you watch Crime Corrections and Culture, we've been discussing criminal thinking. And one of the things that criminals do is their thought process entails something called super-optimism, where they believe that they will accomplish whatever it is they want and, they won't suffer the consequences. When Trump was first running for president and, I was seeing his words, seeing his actions on television, I told my friend Brent, I said, this dude exhibits all the characteristics of criminal thinking. And Brent at first argued with me and said, you can't know that. You shouldn't say that because, you're basically diagnosing somebody from things on television. But soon thereafter, Brent said, no, I think you're right, because it became obvious. This guy, I wholeheartedly believe, thought this was going to be easy, that he was going to, go in, kick their asses, they were going to beg for mercy, and he was going to look like the champ. I fully believe that's what he thought, but that's not what's occurring.
So I asked, is the damage to U.S. military bases worse than what's been reported? And the answer is yes, and it has been confirmed by multiple credible outlets that the damage is more extensive, more bases have been hit. There's been a lot of wounded. So the basics are, there's been some benefits, but the negative consequences have been much worse, and much worse than are being officially reported by the White House.
So Enric, thank you, Enric, for answering. He says one, so I'm guessing there's going to be more. He says, I don't think it was worth violating the Constitution because it's necessary to have the American people to go to winning. Yes, that's true. Thank you, Race. Race sent me the thumbnail. Race is great with the thumbnails, by the way. Okay, so how much damage has been done, Persephone? Can you tell us that, or is it going to be difficult to find? Joseph Collard says Trump doesn't realize the Iranians are ideologically driven, fanatically so, and since he has no ideology, he cannot understand that nor even conceive of it. Probably you're correct, Joseph. By the way, also, folks, super chats, super stickers, greatly, greatly appreciated. don't feel pressure if you can't do it. I understand. It's fine. I think that sometimes maybe, I don't know, maybe I need it to fill the time. Maybe I just want money. Whatever. Either way. So what do you got, Persephone?
Pentagon told lawmakers that the total war cost to date is $25 billion, but 3 sources say that the real estimate is closer to around $50 billion.
So it's twice as much as what they've said.
Nearly double, yeah. They've damaged 16 military sites across 8 Middle Eastern countries. They've targeted more than 100 sites across at least 11 military installations in 7 countries. Runways, high-end radar systems, dozens of aircraft, warehouses, command headquarters, aircraft hangars, satellite communications infrastructure. The projected repair price tag does not include fixes to radar systems, weapons systems, aircraft, and other equipment that were either impaired or rendered unsalvageable. Notably, the radar systems for an American THAAD missile battery in Jordan were apparently destroyed. And so the bottom line, the Pentagon has been presenting a cost figure that excludes the most expensive part of the damage, the suppression of commercial satellite imagery, while the Iranian imagery is freely circulating, is an additional telling detail. So that's the other thing. They have been hiding satellite images showing just how extensive the damage is to the bases.
Thank you, Persephone. Enric says, 2, I thought that it's important enough to eliminate the Islamic Republic that the administration would do what's necessary to win. I was between hope and fear of how Trump's irrationality would end. Thank you, Enric. Before we get to the next topic, there's something that came across my feed this morning. No, maybe I can't share it because it's in a private group. Yeah, I think I can't share it because it's in a private group, so never mind. I was going to, and then it occurred to me. I just realized it's in a private group, so cannot be
You should
shared.
double check that it wasn't also shared in public, because sometimes people do share in private groups and publicly.
Okay, why don't you give an advertisement in the meantime, and I'll go do exactly what you just suggested.
I've already given all of the advertisement. Please don't forget to go and follow us on Twitch. And also, please don't forget to go and find all 3 of the shows on Spotify. And also, please go check out the merch. And if you have any merch recommendations, stuff that you would like to see on a shirt or a hat, let us know.
Okay, so there was a article today in the from American Enterprise Institute, written by conservative pundit columnist Jonah Goldberg, and it's called "Stop Waiting for Trump's Own Words to Take Him Down." And he references, though it was hyperbolic, thank you, Enric, for the $3.99 super sticker. Greatly appreciated, buddy. Thank you so much. He says, can we offer rational alternative cat ear headphones? That would be dope.
That would be dope.
So anyways, you know, we remember when Trump said that, most of us anyway, and he says that might be hyperbolic, but it's very close to the truth. And he references this movie that I have not seen that I'm going to have to watch now, A Face in the Crowd. And The Face in the Crowd is essentially about a demagogue, somebody that is, you know, winning people over through his bombast, through appeals to emotion, et cetera, et cetera. And what the assumption of the movie is, I guess, because the guy gets found out that he's a fraudster and everybody just buys it. You know, they become disillusioned with him. But Jonah says that's not likely to happen in real life, and he names a few things. And let me just find what he says. That's that. Okay, so these are some of the things that we know about Trump. First of all, we know what he said about John McCain not being a war hero because he was captured. I mean, we know about his public character for decades, cheating on his wives, sexualizing his daughter. There's been plenty of things that weren't even hot mic situations where it would have banned anybody else. But also, we have the hot mic where he, you know, boasted how he wants to, you know, he can grab women by the, That was one of the things. We heard the phone call where he told the George, I believe, Secretary of State, yes, to find 11,780 votes. We've heard the recordings where he told Bob Woodward that he deliberately played down COVID-19, that he deliberately lied about it. So we've heard those things. We've also, abundance of other things, but he does not lose his audience. His fans, they love him. They stick by him. It seems to be no matter what. He insulted Ted Cruz's wife and father. Yeah, little Marco Rubio. And there's an abundance of things he's done. But there's a connection there that he's made, and it's not a logical one. It's an emotional connection that he's made with his voters. And this, to me, it's scary. And it's scary to me for a lot of reasons. Because it's not just Trump. It seems to me that most people, when push comes to shove, are emotionally driven and can be swayed by emotions, especially when they think they're the victim group, they've been wronged, somebody's screwing them, whatever. And, this recent Iran situation pointed me in that direction even further toward thinking that most people are emotion driven. The arguments that I've heard, by and large, there's been some that have stuck to facts, but by and large, they've been emotional arguments coming from smart people about going to war with Iran. It's not based on facts. So, there's a lot of that. But it got me thinking in general about demagoguery, about what it is, about, how it works. And so I did some looking in. I read some articles this morning. They're all available to you. Demagoguery, this is from Google, is a manipulative political style that gains power by exploiting emotions, prejudices, and fears rather than using rational debate. Demagogues use scapegoating, lies, and divisive us versus them rhetoric to blame specific groups for societal problems. It is characterized by oversimplification and fostering emotional appeal, scapegoating, false dichotomy, disinformation, personalization of power, focuses on loyalty to a leader rather than institutions. So I think we can see all of that. Then I read, it was an interesting article from, I want to say 2014 by the economist Brian Kaplan, who I've had the good fortune to interview a few times. And he says he believes that a lot of this is related to the social desirability bias. So what he says is this: the heart of social desirability bias are some types of claims sound good or bad regardless of the facts. Helping people sounds good. Acquiring luxuries sounds bad. Saving American jobs sounds good. Cheap nannies for upper middle class families sounds bad. Supporting our troops sounds good. Sympathizing with the enemy sounds bad. Raising the minimum wage sounds good. Measuring disemployment effects sounds bad. And he goes into, and he says, look, we could postulate examples and you can see what I'm talking about. So he said, imagine a situation where the government is spending 10 times as much as it currently spends on terminally ill children. Would you feel comfortable under those circumstances announcing government is wasting money on terminally ill children? I suspect most people would not. He says if government spent 10 times as much on war heroes, would you feel comfortable shouting government gives too much to war heroes? I suspect most people would not. And the same goes for, basically whatever. He goes through a bunch of things, but I think you get the point. So I'm wondering, what is the appeal? Why are people attracted to demagogues? Because I remember there was this guy that I used to talk to in prison, and he was a real simpleton. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I mean, he was a real simpleton. He believed in Santa Claus until he was 26 years old. He believed in Jack and the Beanstalk and Little Red Riding Hood until he was 19. He thought that those were biographies, nonfiction stories. So he didn't have it all there. But what it was for me, it was a window almost into the purity of, for one thing, of how criminals think, because I was able to see it operating on a very simplistic level, but also into emotional thinking. Because there was another guy in prison that used to talk with absolute certainty. And the guy was a complete moron. But this other guy couldn't understand how somebody could sound so convincing and be wrong. It didn't compute. He said, no, he sounds convincing, man. He got to be right. He got to be right. So I was wondering, I read an article, I Googled, I read an article from Psychology Today. Why are people prone to this? So emotional need over logic, alienation and resentment, the illusion of closeness, a binary worldview, and a need from empowerment are all things that make people susceptible to the ideas of demagogues. And, demagogues have been around for, going back, I think, to ancient Greece, at least, probably longer than that. And I don't see the solution. I got to be honest. I'm becoming less and less optimistic, I think, not about my personal life, but about the world in general. I'm just not seeing evidence out there that enough people are motivated by reason, that are motivated by facts and objective judgments, and it's disheartening. So, what say you on this, Persephone?
I don't find it surprising that most people are persuaded by their emotions or are guided by their emotions. When I was writing about the Charlie Kirk thing and the sort of the rush to judgment on social media, you see a lot of the same reasoning why people make these snap judgments on social media and like a rush to post their opinions not backed up by facts at all, because they want like validation, they want a sense of community, and it's all the same thing at the core of it. And that's just how most people are, because there's no incentive actually for them to change, because the world treats them fine. And if there's no incentive for them to change, and most of the world is telling them, no, that is the right way to be, then why would they? There has to be a moment in someone's life that makes them want to live by reason instead of by the way the rest of the world works. And a lot of people aren't comfortable going against the grain and going against what everybody else is doing. A lot of people don't have the spine to stand up to their friend groups and to stand up to their families and to rock the boat. And that's what you need. You need people to rock the boat.
So Akira Felix says, oof, Michael, don't say that. Well, the problem is, Akira, I have to tell the truth. And that's how I'm thinking. That's what the evidence is telling me. I don't believe the world is hopeless. If I did, I would just shut up, go get a decent job where I could make 60, 80 grand a year and live my life out. But I do have hope. It's just less and less. And I'm going to make a question for you, Akira. And I don't know the answer. Well, I do, but I don't. What I mean is I'm very confident in what your answer is going to be, but you have not told me what your answer is. There were people that insulted you for your view on Iran, on the war in Iran. Akira, these people proclaim to be adherents to reason, to logic. How many of them have apologized to you? Now that the evidence is overwhelming. Even while shifting now and constantly criticizing Trump on how he's conducting the war, how many of them have apologized to you? How many of them have done a mea culpa online and said, you know what, man, I was wrong? Because when I'm wrong, that's what I do, right? I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong in the future, and I have no problem admitting it. But I don't just gloss over it. I don't act like it never happened, especially not if I was an asshole to somebody. 3 years ago, I debated Mike Humer on my podcast. And for an abundance of reasons, I didn't conduct myself very well. I was interrupting him. I was very combative. I was a dick. The first chance I had, I apologized to him. I've interviewed him and debated him numerous times since then, and I never gloss over that fact, that he's been nothing but a gentleman to me while I was a dick to him. I was a dick, right? My ignoring it doesn't make it go away. But when the people who are supposed to be the adherents to a philosophy that extols reason mistreated you over a political viewpoint in which you turned out to be right and not one apologizes, that's not a good sign. Persephone?
No, it's not. But it's unlikely that people will apologize, because people do like to think that if they don't acknowledge it, it didn't happen.
Right.
And
They act like they weren't even wrong.
yeah, I still think that, when these people are pressed, a lot of them are going to turn around and say, oh no, I didn't actually really support the war. But
I disagree. I think what they will say is, I think there's going to be multiple lines of argument. I think one line of argument is going to be, hey, look, we did bomb the hell out of them. We did reduce their ability to get a nuclear weapon. We did wipe out their navy, and we did kill the Ayatollah, which are all true. Of course, those weren't the objectives at the beginning, right? That wasn't what they claimed, but that's what they'll argue. Others will argue, look, this was a once-in-a-lifetime shot. No other president was willing to do it. We had to support Trump and hope that he would do what was right, even though he didn't. Those will be the lines of argument.
There was no reason to believe that he...
Oh, I agree.
No real reason to believe that he was going to conduct this well. So there is a question for you, but before you answer that or don't, I have a question. I have a question for you. So when you started this channel, could you say you're becoming less and less optimistic, right?
Yeah.
What was your goal? Like, was your goal to change the world?
My goal, not just on this channel, but for a very long time, has been to persuade people into being logical, to persuade people to be rational, and to persuade people to be ethical. I did it in prison. I do it out here, and I'll keep doing it. Now, here's where I'm optimistic, right? So let me just say that there's kind of two avenues here. I'm optimistic about reaching people individually. On an individual level, I'm very confident. I've done it. I've seen it happen. I know it happened to me. So I'm very confident that can happen. I'm talking about large scale, like at the level of the United States government. I'm not very confident. Doesn't mean it can never happen, and I'm still hopeful, and I'll keep trying. But as my experience in the free world gets more and more, I'm seeing less and less reason for optimism. So hold on, I want to just go ahead. You go ahead first, and then I'll get to some of the chat.
So here's I can understand why you would be less optimistic. But the thing is, the world is made up of people. The world is made up of individuals. You have already influenced a lot of individuals, and those individuals will go on to influence other individuals.
Sure.
You may not make huge change in the next however many years, but you're having an impact, and that's what you can hope to do.
No, it's not just about me and my actions. I'm just saying on a large scale.
Yeah.
I'm less and less optimistic of ever achieving the type of free society in which I would like to live, and which I think is the right type. I'm very confident and optimistic when it comes to dealing with individuals. Very much so. Robert Naser says apologies and graciousness are in your rational self-interest. Sadly, some OIsts don't see the value of rational, honest, virtuous, benevolent skills. Yes, Robert. Dirk Dink Smallwood wants to know, Michael, are we talking about the ARI OIST that you disagreed with concerning the Iran war? I don't know if I've gotten into it with anybody from ARI at all, Dink. So I don't know what you're talking about. I watched. I disagreed with Jerome Brooks slightly at the beginning. I offered to debate him, but he's very busy, obviously. So he basically declined, and that's understandable. But the disagreements that he and I had weren't very vast. And there was an episode. I want to say it was Ankar Gate and Alain Journo that did an episode, and I agreed with virtually everything they said. So I don't know what the disagreement I had with them that you're talking about. If you could elaborate, I would appreciate it. And Robert says the ones who get it are less likely to be in social media spaces, so the worst among us tend to be most visible. That may be very, very true, Robert. All right. Maybe I'm confusing things. I'm thinking about Mark's debate and how you supported him. Oh, okay. So Mark was actually on the ARC UK, the Objective Media Network, not the Ayn Rand Institute. So that might be what you're talking about. And yes, that those are some of the. Well, no, that's one person that I'm referring to from there. That I've had interactions over this, but there's been others that call themselves objectivists. Keith Weiner, when I pressed him for evidence that Iran was on the brink of having a nuclear weapon, Keith told me, he asked me if I was rooting for Iran to win the war. Michael Nyren, accused me of being a rationalist until I debated him. And, well, you can watch the debate for yourself, so let me not toot my own horn. And there were others that I don't remember online. I don't remember every person that criticized me based on my views on Iran. But there were plenty, and I've not received an apology. Well, Jim Valiant did say that I was right, and Jim wasn't one of the ones that was a dick to me anyway. So
But Jim is amazing.
Mr. Deagle says a lot of objectivists are a little too obsessed with Israel. Even before the war, 90% of content on ARC UK was about Israel. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I do. I mean, Razi's from Israel, so I guess maybe that makes sense. I don't know. But for objectivists as a whole, no, I don't. I mean, I get supporting Israel, but I don't get making it the representative issue of the day.
He's the smiling Buddha of objectivism.
I'm going to tell him you said that. He is the smiling Buddha of objectivism. Akira Felix points this out, that Bonnie got mad because Jim said I was right. I don't know if she actually got mad because I'm reading text, and it's hard to tell when you're reading text somebody's emotional state. But she definitely disagreed with him that I was right. She said that she had known all along that Trump was a risk and that he might screw it up and yada, 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 yada. I haven't seen anybody else respond to Jim about that other than Bonnie, but they may have. I don't see everything. Okay, this gets a little bit too much into the inside objectivist stuff that I really want to expand my audience beyond objectivists, and I want to bring other people into the fold of reason and free minds and free markets, as Ayn Rand and as Reason Magazine say. It's true, as Akira said, when I first got out of prison, I did want to unite the various liberty philosophies. I was a
dreamer.
Instead of saying an idiot, I was a wide-eyed optimist, or whatever it is, and more close-eyed, I think it would be. But I think what's the word I'm looking for here? I think if the ideas and the values that I advocate and pursue are going to make it. It's got to go beyond the objectivists. I'll give you a quick one example here, and then I want to move on. This morning, a guy, or yesterday, posted a bunch of definitions, how he was looking into, he was trying to figure out definitions of words like rights, principles, and he was trying to, come to the conclusions himself. So he put them out there. Somebody comes out there, Keith Weiner. Keith Weiner comes out to him and says, why would you use these definitions when Ayn Rand has already defined these words? Well, I have an answer because I want to learn to think for myself and I want to come to my own conclusions. So that's the thing. Ayn Rand said, as I think Craig Biddle put it, is not an argument. We need to think for ourselves, and that's it. What's Catotarian? Catotarians are the future. That is from Akira Felix. Okay, so what about gas prices? Now, Persephone, in America, let me make sure that I don't speak. Oh, I want to talk about this real quick. I keep getting these messages in my DMs on X, and they're all the same thing. Please support me in this podcast contest I'm in. It says, hey, I could really use your support. I'm in the running to co-host a major podcast event with Spotify and Google, and a vote from you would mean a lot. I've gotten maybe 10, 15 of these. Very
That's
strange.
weird.
Very strange.
Obviously, don't click the link.
I'm not voting for anybody. I don't give it. If I was going to vote, I'd vote for myself. So we're not going to get to the slave-holding founders today. So we'll hope maybe cover that tomorrow. I don't think it's bots, Ian. I think these are people that are actually trying to win a contest, but I could be wrong. You think it's bots?
Hold on. Wait. Let's investigate this. So, fake Spotify voting scam exposed.
Oh, okay.
How a fake podcast vote hijacks your social media accounts. So.
Oh, see, that's why I thought they were real, because they're actually accounts, but they're accounts that have been hijacked.
So, it is a link that it will ask you to log in and to vote, and then once you log in, they steal your account. Your account gets hijacked. So that's why I said don't click on the link, because
then they'll be sending it out that I'm in the contest.
Well, I mean, yes, because then they get your account details. They either lock you out of your account or they don't lock you out of your account, and you start sending like random messages to people. And they use your account for more than that. It's obviously not just a scam to perpetuate a scam. They use your account for all sorts of things. So,
no, I don't click these things. I knew they were real accounts, so I didn't think about hijacking.
The thing is, you said, I'm not going to click it because I'm not going to vote for anybody. But the real reason that you don't click on it is because it's a scam. Most of those things are. Generally, if you don't know, even if you do know the person and it looks dodgy, don't click on things.
Don't click on things. Okay. So from Axios today, if a U.S.-Iran peace deal actually happens this time, and that's still a big if, consumers have a long road ahead before filling up returns all the way to the good old days of early 2026. The average gasoline gallon in America today is $4.54 per gallon. It was just under $3 pre-war. And they've got... Kira, to be fair, it's not really that I'm a boomer. I've only been out of prison for 3 years. I mean, let's keep it real for a second here. So what the hell was I going to say? Oh, one of the reasons is because a lot of the gas that's already been purchased by stations has already been paid for at an elevated level. So don't expect them to, the prices to come down. That's at least what Axios gives as the reason. But I started thinking, what about other things that cause the price of gas to go up? I do think that the war in Iran is having a bad effect, but what other things lead to such expensive gas? So, Claude is screwing me again. Persephone, can you open the Claude? Okay, here it is. Never mind.
the
Okay, I got it. Okay, as of January 2026, the average American pays about 52 cents in taxes per gallon of gasoline. That's the federal tax of 18.4 cents plus an average 33.3 cents in state levels and fees. So you've got 52 cents a gallon is tax money. And I was thinking, are there regulations that limit the amount of gas stations? Yes, opening a gas station involves heavy regulation regarding who can operate one and where they can be placed. Key requirements include securing a motor fuels retail outlet license, passing fire and environmental inspections for underground storage tanks, and complying with zoning to ensure proper commercial usage. So there's limits on the amount of gas stations or who can actually open one. And I looked into the effect that regulations have on oil, nuclear power, gas, etc. Regulations on the energy sector generally increase gasoline prices by raising production, refining, and compliance costs. Environmental rules for cleaner burning oils, blending mandates like ethanol, and limitations on drilling restrict supply and increase costs, particularly during seasonal shifts. Conversely, reducing regulations or easing environmental reviews can help lower costs. And then from what the hell is this place here? The University of Texas. The things that affect the cost of oil, the price of oil affects the price of gasoline. Refining, especially it lists the refining costs as cost compliance with environmental regulations. Taxation is also another big impact on the price. And then international relations, international crises like the war. So my point here is that much of the cost of gasoline when you go to fill up is caused by government. Whether it be taxes, regulations, restrictions on gas stations, who can build one, foreign wars as we're having now. But yet the first thing that people say when prices go up is they're being gouged. You're being gouged, all right. It's by your government. It's your government that is causing the price to be so high. The government, through its regulation, through its wars, through its taxes, are what is causing you to have to pay so much at the pump. Persephone, you read it.
What
That's
is there
it.
to say? What is there to say? Yes, obviously it's the government fucking up. It's regulations.
You can say, Michael, you are so smart. You did all this research today. Thank you for putting so much effort into this today so we could have a good show.
Michael, you look so handsome today.
I didn't even ask for that one.
So the thing is, petrol's gone up in South Africa as well. And we're allowed through the Strait. So it's just the government fucking around.
All right, it's the government fucking around. You know who's not going to fuck around is me. I am going... one more quick comment here. A new report from the Hartford Institute. Hartford's right here. The Hartford Institute for Religious Research shows that for the first time in roughly 20 years, church attendance is trending upward. With more people volunteering and clergy expressing renewed optimism, the study's authors described the findings based on a survey of more than 7,400 congregations as showing signs of widespread recovery from low attendance numbers. Well, if that ain't just a kick in the head. That's great. That's wonderful. More people going to religion. Awesome.
You know what? I think we should do a special episode about religion and about the dangers of religion.
We will. You got to. You should book that for one of our weekends. I don't even know what we're talking about Saturday. You haven't even told me yet. You see?
Also, it's Mother's Day on Sunday.
What's that got to do with Saturday?
Well, because I'm seeing my mother on Saturday because she's busy on Sunday with her other child.
Oh, no. Thank you, Nicole. All right.
Very
So
true.
yesterday, I don't remember what the question was.
Good.
Oh, what issue are you most passionate about? Robert swooped in and asked the question. Thank you, Robert. Robert's answer: living well, rationally, successfully, benevolently, intensely, and passionately. Akira Felix says my own life. Jenna Kleem says my own mental and physical well-being. And Nicole Hingle says my husband, my father, and my dog are tied for first place. Liberty Twitcher: religious people often behave more morally than non-religious, so we should get less crime.
I vociferously disagree with you. I
Who's
think you're
Liberty
wrong.
Twitcher? Is that you, Persephone? Is that anybody associated with you?
No, it's nobody associated with me. I have no idea who that is.
Okay.
Um,
Liberty Twitcher, I disagree.
Don't be rude. Don't be
I'm
rude.
not going to be rude. I'm responding, and I said I disagree. We really don't have a lot of time. Your capitalist thought of the day is today's question: what has been the rational alternative's most engaging question? There you go. She gave the question, so now we just have to ask that. Megan also, by the way, earlier on mentioned something about education. That you have to start in primary education if you want to really impact the world. And Megan, I agree with that. Capitalist thought of the day. Leonard Peikoff cited it. I'll cite it. I'll cite it. I'll cite it as well. The old show Dragnet. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. If you want to advocate for capitalism and you want to advocate for freedom, we have to be concerned with facts. Just the facts. And I'm not saying that we need to be dry, boring communicators. No, not at all. What I'm saying is we need to know the facts. We need to communicate the facts. We don't want to embellish the facts. And we don't want unknown facts popping out that we could have had access to. We need to do our due diligence, look into the issues that we're going to talk about, and make our case. This is one reason I always tell folks, fact check me. Okay, Persephone, ask the question that Megan asked. I got something in my eye now.
So today's question: what has been the rational alternative's most engaging question? It's definitely one that I asked.
You can't bias the jury. You know what I've been listening to lately before we say goodbye? Afro Man. I got to say, this guy is a smart man. When I saw him on the stand, he comes in, he's got his afro and he's got his American flag suit on, but his answers were crisp, smart guy, and the videos are hilarious.
Very good.
All right, folks. Please join in 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time today for Everyday Ethics, where Persephone is going to have a great topic for us. 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, Crime Corrections in Culture. And 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time, the debate between Liam Staten and Liquid Zulu on whether objectivism is open or closed. I've had a couple people already chime in. It's closed. That's it. End of discussion. I agree. It doesn't mean that you can't have a debate about the subject. All right, folks. Until 2:30, where I hope I see you, or at least tomorrow. Remember to always check your premises. Peace.